Welcome to section 13.3, special factoring. So in the first part we're going to focus on are the perfect squares. So when you have a perfect square such as these two form, the square of a plus b, then it will equal to a squared plus 2 times a times b, that's your middle term, and then plus b squared. Or in the second form, the square of a minus b equal to a squared minus, and then the middle term, 2 times a times b, then plus b squared, where a and b can be unknown numbers or unknown variables or combined together. And you'll see what I mean by that when we're going through these examples that we have for perfect squares. But make sure to be familiar with this form as we are going to factor perfect squares. In this first example, we have x squared minus 10x plus 25. So this is a trinomial, and since this is a trinomial, you can use the method from the previous section on factoring this, and it will work. So you can try it, but here we're going to talk about a different method for perfect squares. So when it comes to perfect squares, usually there's a pattern that you will notice, and one way you would check it out is by checking for this one right here and this one right here. So x squared, that's a perfect square, so I'm going to square root this. And then 25 is also another perfect square, so I'm going to check that one too. So the square root of x squared is simply x. And then the square root of 25 is just 5. So basically my x is the a value and my 5 is the b value. So I also notice that in the middle term it's minus while the last term is positive. So one thing I forgot to mention is that between these two terms is that the last term is always positive, but the middle term is the same sign as what we started off here. If this is plus, the middle term is plus. If this is minus, then the middle term is minus. So mine right here is minus in the middle, but the last one is plus, so it may follow the second form here. So to double check if this is a perfect square, I'm going to follow this form right here. So I'm going to do 2 times my a value, which is x, and then my b value, which is 5. So I'm just going to multiply straight across. So 2 times x is 2x, and then 2x times 5 is 10x. So it matches with this. So therefore, since my 2 times a times b values equal to 10x, then therefore this is a perfect square. So I'm simply going to use my a value, which is x, and then my b value, which is 5. Let me underline that. And then all I'm going to do is just write x. Since it's the middle term that is minus, I'm following this format. So minus my b value, which is 5, put it in parentheses, and then put the square. So that's all you have to do when factoring a perfect square. So again, you can simply do this in your mind once you understand the patterns. Again, I noticed that my first term and my last term is a perfect square, so I did the square root of both of them, and I got x and 5. And then I followed the middle term, which is 2 times a times b, meaning 2 times my a value, which is x, and then times my b value, which is 5. So when I did 2 times x times 5, I got 10x, which is the same as that, and I'm not worried about the sign. Once it's the same as that, and then I check the sign, both minus and then both plus, so I'm going to follow this format. That's how I got this answer. In this second example, we have x squared plus 14x plus 49. So if you want to check if this is a perfect square, let's take a look at the first term and the last term. This is a perfect square, and the last term is also a perfect square. In addition, this is a positive and that's a positive, so it may follow this format that we have here, the first one. So to double check, I'm going to do the square root of the first term and the last term. This one here, the square root of x is just x. The square root of 49 is 7. Alright, now we're going to check the middle term, 2 times a times b. So this is my a and this is my b. So I'm going to do 2 times my a value, which is x, times my b value, which is 7. So 2 times x is 2x, and then 2x times 7 will be 14x. So it matches with this. So this is indeed a perfect square because my a value, which is the x, and my b value, which is the 7, when I multiply and then times 2, I get 14x, and then it follows the sign. So I'm going to set up my answer in this format. So my a value, which is x, I'm going to write x first, plus, because the middle term is plus, and then my b value, which is 7, I will put in parentheses with the square. Make sure to include the square. If you don't, then you lose partial credit. And then this is our final answer. So like I said, once you understand the patterns, you can do this quickly. You can factor this perfect square quickly by checking your a value, your b value, and then multiply them together by 2. Then you should match with the middle term, as long as it also follows the signs.